Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So my name is Kateryna, or just Kate. And to understand better what is your interest and why you generally Kate, I think we can work 30 more minutes with questions, like any practical questions on campaign management or on directly maybe on your grassroots campaign or your advocacy campaign, or maybe some questions about elections in Eastern Europe. I don't know. And so we will work till 6 p.m. Like this. And after that, my colleague Dina can have small speech and discussion about implementation of tools and SAC group work, international for your work invitation. My name is Kate, and I was raised and born in Ukraine, and I go to profession of campaign management pretty like an understandable way because my father first was businessman and then he became politician. So he believed in Western vector of moving of Ukraine, and that's why he what represents southern Ukraine, Kherson region in Ukrainian parliament. He was working on regional development and also some issues with regional medical infrastructure for region. So that's why he was re-elected many times. After the situation, he was the governor of southern region, and after that, he was in Russian sanction list as like enemy of Russia. And when they occupied our region, unfortunately, we lose a lot. But thanks God, we alive. But it's my motivation why I generally go to political management work. So first, we start working with pretty small clients from local councils in Ukraine, Litva, Latvia, some people in Kazakhstan who want to be elected to their local councils. After we work with one of Ukrainian prime ministers, a pretty long time, around 6 years. And after that, we also start to do big campaign like creating new political parties in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, creating new political movements, work with top politicians. So, and we also represent the same people in lobbying contracts here in Washington, D.C. and in European Union. So that's why me and our company work generally on three vectors. So it's election organizing, political management, it's government relations and lobbying, and it's international press or domestic press or press and media work with the same type of clients. Also, when we have like free time from generally working with clients, we invest to Institute for Democracy and Development. It's our nonprofit which provides free lectures and free trainings for people who want to be elected, who want to understand democratic way of grassroots campaign, of campaigning, of fundraising, of resistance. So it's work as free here in the United States, and we also have offices in Kiev and people in Astana working with our team. So it's our corporate social responsibility, and Institute for Democracy and Development also now a pretty good standing think tank. So we provide a lot of analytics for the Atlantic Council, for Wilson Center, pretty for like good institutions, and try to move democracy forward in the region. So it's basically like short information about my way and way of our team SAC Group. We believe in democratic tools in post-Soviet Union region. We believe in democratic tools in Central Asia, and we believe in the same tools on African region and Latin American region, and for the same tools here on Capitol Hill, because sometimes it's also troubles, right? Night. But what brings you here? Maybe let's collect some thoughts about that. What's your expectation from today's discussion? Anybody? You were active, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
So prior to COVID, I had an opportunity to go overseas to Uzbekistan to monitor the presidential election. There were about 5 different parties that were running along with the ruling party because the president died unexpectedly. So his second in command was appointed to be the next president. Would your organization have been there on the ground advising the different parties, especially since Uzbekistan doesn't have a tradition or history of elections? It was a strong man that ran the country until his passing. And how do you deal with those kind of parties that are emerging out of that kind of situation where the government clearly wants to trade, engage with the West, they want to show that they're, a democratic they're moving in a democratic way. Is that something that your organization would be on the ground advising the government and or these different opposition parties without any kind of negative inference that you're interfering in the local elections? Okay, thank you. And please also tell your name or your nickname or how you. North America Eurasia Center. Yeah, thank you, Ralph. Who else can ask some question which you want to hear in presentation? Ilya? Okay. Or yeah.
My question is totally different because you have a lot of experience working in Ukraine and in other post-Soviet countries, and then relatively recently you moved to the United States. For me, one of the biggest enigmas in my life was why Americans advise us not what they're doing themselves. They always try to create something new, in our political systems, while they themselves are doing totally different.
Existential question.
Your book to me is an attempt to actually bridge this gap.
Yeah.
And actually communicate what's actually going on here, where the pluses and minuses. And we at our Congress of People's Deputies are trying to do the same. So can you elaborate more about those differences and what's the most, in your mind as a political consultant, biggest differences in how the political systems and political campaigns, most importantly, are organized?
Thank you. It's quite. What's your name?
Yeah, hi, I'm Raj. I'm here just out of curiosity. Given the situation in Ukraine, well, younger generation is kind of exposed to the democratic tools and processes. What about the older generation? How do they look at it in terms of rule of law, checks and balances?
Thank you. Yeah. First question I have.
My name is Alexander, journalist. I'm very excited to care about your book because you're one of the most well-known political consultants in the United States.
Oh, thank you.
So I recently came to hear everything about the book and what motivated you to write it.
Thank you. Thank you.
My expectations is in line with what you were saying. With these elections in post-Soviet space, Eastern Europe, Eurasia, aspects of confronting disinformation, misinformation, the whole Russian information kind of warfare going on, because it's more under the surface now, because you have the conflict raging in Ukraine. More people are focused on more concrete things, but these ideological ideas are always there in the background. So any ideas about that?
Thank you. It's an important question. Yes, please. Well,
Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Belton, and I would love to learn about what everyone already said. But just to add one thing, I would love to hear about advocacy, effective advocacy around issues and referendums, things like that. So not just candidates, but also issues-based advocacy.
okay. Advocacy here in United States or advocacy in other countries, because it's different a little bit. Other countries.
If you have insights about here.
Okay. Some mix. Okay. Any other expectations or any? Okay. Then let's move to the answers. You can keep it. Maybe you have some like it. We will discuss advocacy, so we can do a little masterclass, about advocacy. So generally, it's short book, right? And why it's short? Because first of all, new generation not ready to read like big books, right? But it's not so short that like make a 1 minute movie from that, right? 50 seconds. So why I publish this book? It's like one of your question, and maybe why you come here. When we work with clients, even it's no matter is it client who go to small local council in small town or big businessman, billionaire who want to be a president, it's the same mistakes. So people just like to have too much rush in their campaign, and if they're successful in some other sector, like in science or in business, they feel that they can just copy like their methods from business or from science work or from journalist work or from advocacy work and to move it to campaign, which is not. And the same, nobody go to like professional to dentist with a root canal, to dentist with no experience. But if it's about election campaign, it's okay to engage somebody who is head of campaign with no experience. And for me, it always was pretty weird because I saw on my experience when people put, for example, $2 million to billboard campaign, it was like campaign like candidates XYZ have this message for celebration International Women's Day. And they really pay like millions of dollars for this advertising, which make no sense, which make no logic. And the same I saw when really good democratic candidates with pretty reasonable budget not moving forward against real big corruptioners, because they also just want to use only one method, what they know, right? And how they speak with pretty the same audience. And they lose and they have like 1% of rating. And it's sad. So that's why we have free lectures on SIC Group YouTube and also information in this book, which like checklist, you know. So it's just checklist what you must do if you want to run to elections, right? So, and first of all, we explain who is political managers. So, and who is real political manager and who just talking about that. It's also important. And in first part of the book, we also put a lot of attention to relationships between political manager and a client, because sometimes also it's very tough with this like, schedule to have like normal, understandable relationships with KPIs. And next chapter, we also explain what is sociological pooling, what is research, because almost all clients in Eastern Europe and Central Asia just ignore research. They just think that it's not important. Like business planning, they also have zero business planning. And that's why, because it was tough to make money in 1990s, they just think that all this data analytics, research, tools, focus groups, it's just expensive, like not needed stuff. And it's just garbage technology, which not needed. So that's why usually they skip this issue and they ask their wife or female friends, is it like good billboards? And so it's usually no data. And then they put idea, it's, for example, example from Ukraine, like person believes that he's big businessman from Kiev, but he wants to be elected to parliament from Kiev region, and people in Kiev region generally farmers, and he just bring like questions about constitutional reform, which really not important for person who live in village and who want to know about regional medicine and medical centers in the region. It was near Chernobyl region, and medical centers and additional support was needed. And it's just one example. Second example, it's from our practice in Ghana, in Africa, was the same stuff. So candidates want to be elected as a president, and he moved only one issue of digitalization, but generally village community wants to know more about developing small businesses there, but not about abstract digitalization, right? So that's why if you not like make research before you start to talk about something, and when you not do research on what you will talk on focus groups and how you must look like, you can just invest money not in the right way, or your effort or your volunteers. That's why in second chapter we generally explain what is research and how to build strategy from this. So what is strategy? What will be your main message? Who will be your audience? What will be your main methods, like who will be in your office, and so on and so forth. It all must be in written strategy. And only candidates for president or candidates with multi-million budget have really the strategy in writing. So really, I didn't see even any candidate who wants to be elected as a mayor of big city with written strategy. And we explain here why it's important, because you have anyway a lot of volunteers, a lot of people in your office, and if you have a strategy in written, they can understand your strategy in different way. And if they also your donors, they can understand your strategy in different way. So that's why it's very important to have the strategy in writing. And we also, for like small candidates, have on our YouTube example how to do the strategy. So if you haven't budget for fancy DC firm, right? You can do it by yourself, but it's very important to do. Next chapter is about message and why it must be one message, but not 10 messages, not 200 messages. It must be one message. And sometimes even candidates here have this like, problem. Even on messaging now, like Trump and Harris, it was the same problem. Trump had one message, which was understandable for his base, and Harris have different messages, which wasn't. It wasn't like our clients directly this to people, but it's obvious mistake, which We also have in different campaigns and wherever in Kazakhstan, in Latin American countries, the same mistake. But you also can have free sub messages which move to different audience the same issue. So, for example, like we like fighting for justice, but it can be free sub messages: justice like against corruption, justice like social justice, and some other justice, right? So main message and free sub messages. After that, we also explain how to move this message to media ecosystem and to digital. And what I see from my practice that sometimes people believe only in one tool. So they came and they said, oh, we will win these elections in Georgia only win with YouTube. No, you can't win elections only with YouTube, right? So, or you can't win elections only with social media. Even if you work with rural areas, there are sometimes people not use social media. And sometimes people believe that, oh, this is methods like canvassing or phone banking. It just matters from like last age. It's not work now. Canvassing and phone banking work great here in Maryland. We did on last campaign a lot of work in Maryland, in Virginia. We also do phone banking for all United States, and it's worked great. Also, as I worked with volunteers, as some leaflets, it's worked great. So also we explain some tools which you need to use as a tools to communication. And then we also explain some checklist what directly type of materials you must have, because sometimes for people not obvious because that you must have your biography in some ways, that this biography must be in your archetype, that this archetype must be with some direct words, that you must have your story, not that I'm from this university and I have this job and this wife. You must have this your biography in hero journey, which is typical like for all filmmakers, for example, and so on and so forth. So a lot of issues which you can read in this book. After next chapter, it's of course about KPI of campaign, so how you can count for what you pay, because sometimes campaign managers just said, oh, I'm so genius person who can analyze your archetype and that's it. It's not enough. You must also do generally work with volunteers or other stuff, and you can count that generally. Even with soft here in United States, like minivan and other stuff, you can direct count every voter. And we also was first people who use this technology, for example, in Ukraine for digitalization of contact with your supporters. And sixth chapter, it's about lobbying, government relations, and grassroots, because usually people who became elected or who taken part in campaign, when it's not campaign, they do government relations and advocacy work. And in developing democracy, usually it's the same people who do campaign management and government relations. So it's nothing super genius here, right? But it's checklist for everybody. And even if you experienced, you can point some, I didn't know anything about hero's journey, and it's very useful for me to write my biography about that, right? On this algorithm. And of course, it's very useful for people who just starting. My next book will be more details about neuromarketing, about archetypes, about hero journey. So like for more advanced users, but you can find all these lectures on different languages on our YouTube. Now I move to your questions about Uzbekistan. No, we didn't have any experience in Uzbekistan because usually people from such countries as Uzbekistan don't need such service as we sell. So also, for example, candidates who want to give bribes to voters, they don't hire us, they hire other people who professionals in bribes.
Okay.
Yeah, and no, and I honestly said we usually we have like pro-European, pro-Western clients.
Right.
And some other
For transparency, they will want that.
yeah, because they want to buy all this stuff which I explained. And usually on campaign, some other politician who buy, sorry, but it's called Russian political technologies.
But at the same time, they want an alliance with the West. They have to show that they're transparent.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if we talk about, for example, Yanukovych period in Ukraine, so it was $10 to voter and voter or package of food for voter and voters vote. But in Africa, the same. If we talk about campaign in Moldova now, it's the same. Look to Gagauzia, look to people with lower income. They unfortunately just vote for $10, $15 in cash. and some people, professionals, direct. It's called Setka. It's called like a system of bribing of voters. And we usually compete with these people. And all our education work also to explain to candidates that it's not good, and explain to voters that if you will take this $15, you will never have quality representation. But unfortunately, in developing democracy, it works, and I believe that Uzbekistan still on the level that they don't need anything transparent. Kazakhstan is different. So Kazakhstan try to be like more Western type of communication. We use how we use ChatGPT or other tools in our work. It's great when you have message, when you have, for example, article, and then you go to 10 outlets and you must rewrite one article to 10 outlets. So of course, ChatGPT can do it for your manager. It's great. Also, it's great when you write some letters or when you have one post and then you adopt this post to all social media. But ChatGPT never can write political strategy. So of course you can say that, hey, ChatGPT, write political strategy for this candidate. It's a lady, pro-European, with business background and with good team. Here's photo of this lady. Of course, he can write that, it's Ayetna archetype and with some elements of archetype of Artemis. And she must wear kind of like warrior jackets. And it can be like useful, but if you didn't do that in practice, it's very tough to implement. And secondly, you usually work with pretty difficult, pretty rich people who is pretty difficult to communicate. And usually these people not use ChatGPT or even they not use phones, they only call and Signal and WhatsApp, and that's it, how they use phone. So no, if we go to high level candidates, and they usually even haven't time to think about strategy. And it's the most important issue that they so busy with business and with campaign and with some other stuff that they even haven't time to think about that. And third issue, it's pretty confidence information. For example, in strategy, we have blog which called Strategy Against Our Opponents. And there we write how they can attack our campaign, right? What they can use from biography of our candidate to attack him or her. And we wrote strategy how to prevent this attack. And as you know, all in ChatGPT generally complex mind. So I'm not sure that it's okay to use these tools for such sensitive questions. And third, you also think about your strategy to point your positive view and maybe some negative view from, I don't know, contacts of your opponent or bribing to voter. So that's why it's very sensitive document strategy. And generally, it also needs brainstorm with all team of candidates. So that's why I'm not believe that artificial intelligence can do that, wherever Gemini, ChatGPT, other, because it's pretty creative work. But one more time, I'm not believe in like Harari style predictions that everybody will haven't any work because artificial intelligence will do this work. I'm Jewish, and our Rebbe, Lubavitch Rebbe, said that it's very good that in this period we have more time for good deeds and for thinking about spirituality. So it also shows that if it will be not work on Amazon warehouse, people will do yoga training or psychological training or hugs to each other, I don't know, something like that. That's why I'm not believe that in our work, ChatGPT will change generally our income, but for sure, even in our office now we can create more interesting products and don't do stupid work like, okay, we have this 100 visit cards and now we need one person who will digitalize it because it's like stupid work. And now ChatGPT do it for us, right? Or we write one good message and then ChatGPT write for us for 10 different social media, different texts. So this is cool. It's my positive view on this issue. And one more time, political management, very, very personal stuff. And you never can work with clients if you haven't really this trust this client. Even the small or big one, not important. Your question about Americans and their technology in other regions. Look, I very like this book which called Cultural Map. It's about business. This book of lady who was working with different corporations, who American based, but after they work in other countries. And they was very successful in United States, but they wasn't zero successful in Japan and in Norway, as I remember. And try to understand why, because generally type of management, for example, in Ukraine and in United States, or in United States and in Israel, very different. Like in post-Soviet Union countries, still it's vertical understanding. In campaign, election campaigns, the same. So head of campaign have full responsibility for everything what happened in campaign. So it's still vertical understanding. And if you will engage too much people to discussion, it will be mess. But if in United States you engage so much people in discussion, it will be good result. And she explains that, for example, Norway, it's also a system where you need to discuss everything with everybody. So that's why this cultural maps, it's important. And also type of people different. So people who was, no, like my father when he became politician, it's example from my family. He was firstly in Soviet Union as old people. He was just like working as engineer and so on and so forth. After he was entrepreneur, so he can go to privatization process and organize people who was working in development company and so on and so forth. So he has this talent, and then he earned some money, and then he invests money to pro-European political movement. Oh, and this is one of the way of biography which is typical for the region. But person who here grew up in old money family and then go to prestigious university and generally have very different risk resistance can understand life the same as person from South Korea, Vietnam, Ukraine, Israel, the bombing all life, right? Who is ancestors of people who was Holocaust survivor. It's just different experience. So that's why, and this planning the same. That's why person from also Eastern Europe and Central Asia, because I don't like this word post-Soviet Union, just have different understanding of life than person here. That's why here everybody starts with strategy, right? Everybody starts with strategy. Here everybody buy a lot of data, and even I have meeting with one potential client who wants to be elected next year, and he ready for primary. He in Montgomery County, not far, and he come already with all data about his district. He already know who is living there, problems. He already know data about his opponents, and it's organic for him. It's organic for him to know that. Yes, Ilya?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm interrupting you.
Yes, sure. We have discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question was different. What we see as a phenomenon, say people from NZI, IRI.
I feel discussion about foreign aid.
One side, Paul Manafort's like, who are coming,
Yeah.
and they vice versa. They blend into the local culture, take a lot of money, ridiculous sums of money for their services, which they never get in the United States.
$10 million.
Even 1/10 of what they're getting as an honorariums in Ukraine, they're not getting in the United States.
In Ukraine, usually $5,000 a month.
So they, but they follow what exists on the local market. But behaviors different from what exists in the United States. To the country, when you're referring to Russian style election campaigns, we Russian political consultants which were coming to Ukraine, they vice versa. They always try to get shut up. We'll teach you what to do.
Right.
And some of them were teaching, yes, how to give bribes and to buy. Some of them were teaching, NLP or something like that.
Yes, very fancy.
Something progressive. But they were teaching how they do it back in Russia.
Yeah.
And that's totally different how American political consultants are doing. So why is that?
Look, first of all, if we discuss about like Russian political managers back 10 years ago in other countries like Ukraine, Georgia, and Kazakhstan, they was more understandable and they was better paid than local managers. Why they have more contracts? I understand why, because person from 1990s so tough that they don't believe that you can count directly how you do classical communications. No, I will give you direct examples. we use some methodology which called local initiatives. So generally, it's idea for global political party in any country who wants to elect their people to local councils, and usually central office of party communicate all strategy to all regions. So generally, we said, okay, we will take some issue from the region and we will connect signatures for this decision. And in this way, you can contact with direct database of supporters and you can count them. And people like that because they can count these voters. And why they buy bribery before and why they used to buy bribery? Because they believe that bribery they can count. Because they can count that through systems, types go to 10 voters. So these 10 voters will vote for me because they're afraid that they will be beaten if they not. No, it's real. And it's, no, unfortunately, it's Russian type of campaigning, which was like in Georgia, and now in Moldova, for example. No, people organize that. But clients buy that, businessmen, because they can understand KPIs and they can't understand like technologies that you can work also with KPIs with people who come to your town halls, who was on your phone banking, who sign your petition. Because on our experience, we count these people, we have them in database, we didn't give to them anything and they vote. And it's completely like normal democratic campaign. So that's why people buy Russian this technology with bribing, unfortunately. And some, no, so it's question of political culture, but it's existential question. Second, why Americans teach grassroots campaign and not adopt technologies? I think that some trainings was really useful. For example, when we worked with Tymoshenko, Tymoshenko party was big party in Ukraine, still big party. And I participate almost in all trainings which NDI, IRI, NET organized for party, and I think it was useful. Why? It gives to people some type of strategic thinking, for example, in working with your community on budget issues. It was a great program. This program was before war. I directly, as campaign manager, was on these events because local leaders come. And from our side, we also create KPIs for local leaders in engagement of, voters. About campaigning generally, like how to write message, I think they just can't pack this information because in this book, everything also like it's classical Western campaign. Nothing new. It's not my invention, right? So my invention, it's like more use archetypes and more take some issues from neuromarketing because I have first education in biology and second education I have in political science and then I work in political science. But I kind of try to use intersection knowledge for better campaigns. But it's really needed if you go to president elections. It's not needed if you go to like local council or school board or something. But I feel that it's not work because it wasn't adopted to people who need that. And secondly, because participants of those trainings wasn't people who really was in top level of political parties. Because usually people who are on top level of political parties, they pretty rich and they think that it's not needed to participate, that it's like not fancy or not need their time. So it's big gap between people who in civil society and who understand these tools and people who really have money and influence to make this happen. And it's happened more and more time, like in Moldova now. In Moldova now can be like pro-Russian parliament. Why? Pro-European path of Sandu looks like boring and like, like bureaucrats and not without any passion, like classical European type of politician. But people like somebody like Milei or who have this like, like chainsaw or something. Yeah, and it's like, and also it's a waves. It's a waves. Even in Germany, you see these waves, unfortunately, with Jewish heritage. Unfortunately, I see that no, it's, right, this movement. But one more time, I think that these trainings must move to people who really decision-making people, and they just not meet. So civil society and real people who in charge never meet. And in political party management, they also never meet. So sometimes donor of political party in Eastern European countries come and said, you as campaign manager will work with me directly. And these candidates, it's not important. they will do whatever you say to them to do, whatever, no, to bring them to the parliament. It's not okay, but it's still like problems of developing democracies. And last question about disinformation, which maybe connects to ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and after. Look, disinformation was I like book Coelet of King Solomon, a very existential book. And there said, what? Nothing new on this earth. What does it mean? It's not mean that nothing new that we have an iPhone. We have iPhone, it's new, but nothing new. It's question of communication. So before, what Nazi disinformation? They also spread disinformation through radio and through newspapers. It was disinformation about Zionism and so on and so forth. It was classical disinformation, as now disinformation about biolabs in Ukraine. But now they share this disinformation through TikTok and through like Instagram. And before it was in newspapers. But generally, in the sense, nothing new. And if you go to the sense of strategy, of archetypes, of other, nothing new. So on every election, you have wise man or woman, you have like woman mother as archetype, you have fighter, you have warrior, nothing new from like period of, I don't know, Greece, nothing new. And in the methods of communication, also, you can't move to be elected person who haven't any charisma or passion or something like that. Also nothing new. So in this way, we always go to the, and why people vote, also nothing new. If you ask person in United States in Montgomery County, they said that it's not enough social service and programs for kids. And if you ask a person in Israel, they also said that it's not enough good medicine and good program for kids. And if you ask in Aktau in Kazakhstan, which Dina will talk more about, which is much worse services than in Montgomery County, Maryland, they will say the same, that bad medicine and bad social service for kids. So one more time, nothing new. And the same as here in Capitol Hill, people discuss, oh, it's very easy. People from region hate people in the capital. And it's also nothing new. But it's a problem that now in the age when we have time to read books, to come to such meetings, to do good deeds, and we have money for that, we still invest in polarization, like here in United States. What's the sense to invest $1 billion to issue of polarization so deeply that people hate each other? What quality of candidates do you have? So that's why it's more existential question. But one more time, I think that campaign managers must be responsible in that. But it's also tough business because we have team of 14 people who work all the time, and also a lot of contractors. But it's also hard to find contracts all the time. So generally, you must work on one elections. It's usually like 2 or 3 months because nobody really work like only in the United States long term. Then you must work with clients with whom you work like on press releases and press or GR, which is like boring contracts. Then you must go to other country with completely different people and culture and find person there who will be like your negotiator and the standard of local like traditions and archetypes to work there. So it's a really tough business. And if somebody wants to, like you mentioned, Ilya, right? So if you don't want to do this tough business every day, you sometimes want to find one dictator who will pay to you 10 million for time. But generally, I didn't see any stable companies, big companies who, we're not big company, but I didn't see any big companies who was successful in that. Because generally, if you're successful in the United States, you don't need to move to other countries, right? Our firm was starting from international consulting. We understand developing democracies. So we more work like 70% in developing the democracy and 30% locally. So it's just our how doing business. But for other people who from here and who then come to Ghana and said, oh, now I will live in Ghana because I'm so cool in Washington, D.C. No, I mean, it's not true, right? So, but one more time, we happy that everybody work in this sector, and we hold every year, this year will be 11th International Government Relations and Campaign Management Forum. So last year was 10th forum, this year will be 11th. And we discuss all these ethical issues and new tools on this forum. Our firm main sponsor of that. So thank you so much for your attention.
The stuff you talked about when it comes to campaigns, how does the older generation in Ukraine get all this stuff?
Yeah, Raj, thank you for your question.
Late 50s and above.
Thank you, Raj. Yes, I think older generation in Ukraine have no difference with older generation in every country. Here in the book, we, for example, explore what type of communication needs for every generation, like for baby boomers, for millennials, for Gen Z. And it's not really depends where people live. Sometimes what I see in communication campaign in Ghana, that people really more digital savvy than people in Indiana. Why? Because they have internet banking and they use very actively internet banking and crypto. So they more digital savvy than people in Potomac, Maryland, who still use checks everywhere, right? So, and it's kind of interesting. But what is interesting is that really before war, some people, like more older generation, have nostalgia for Soviet Union. Some of people have, but it's pretty specific. We saw that, and I generally think that when somebody put to Putin some reports about Ukraine, they put this part of nostalgia for Soviet Union when people have work, for example, in Kakhovka, southern Ukraine, that they believe that it was better. No, they was young at that period. They have work. They get apartment from the capital, and they had nice park. So, and they was young one more time. So they on focus groups always said that, oh, ice cream was better in Soviet Union. You know this, yeah? Ice cream was better in Soviet Union. So it's like pattern which was taken by Russian propaganda and disinformation, and they try kind of copy that. Oh, ice cream was better, so Putin is better. But some people also said that Stalin was good, good government manager. But I want point attention that Stalin organized genocide, Holodomor, and other stuff. But when they occupied territory, it was big resilience because this nostalgia to your young period, I think everybody has that, right? Who older than 40. It's not equal that you loyal to authoritarian regime. But one more time, in every country, you must do focus groups and research to understand these generational needs and generational stereotypes, which you can in good way use in your communication. So I hope that I answered your questions. Yes, Renate, we can discuss foreign aid today.
I have a question. I'm keeping, but
Yeah.
I won't say few views if it's last one.
You're host here, so
It's on the forecast. In Latin America, for example, using American political consultants is a very common
yes,
thing, and it's very common.
we work in Latin America. Nice people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
They like to import this expertise from the outside. In the post-Soviet space, it's not so cool. We have, I can name just two big names which were working, Dick Morris and in Russia during the campaign of 1996, or worse. Yeltsin, Paul Manafort was working for Yanukovych for extended period of time. Besides that, there is some PR networks like Weber Shandvik, Burston Marsteller, but not so much with political consulting. Well, do you see as a professional that we will face the expansion of American political consultancy and in the post-Soviet space one day?
no, look, for me as a businessman, it's very understandable because generally it's small markets. You can have clients from Kazakhstan, for example. It's generally 15 clients who can buy that. No, and in the United States, every candidate in Montgomery County can buy that. So generally here, bigger markets.
No, they can, but they don't have to. That's information.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. So if you work vertical thinking, it's good point. So that's why big firms. I have partners here who big names here, who big strategists here, who consult presidents, and we do some smaller jobs for them in big campaigns. So, and I'm pretty honest what we do and what we don't do, because other people who come to Georgia and said, oh, I'm cool political manager, they just lie. They said, oh, I'm main manager of Trump or Biden, and it's even not true. It's not true on 0.1%. And they have usually one photo from some event, from some public event. Or now you can generate this photo in ChatGPT, no problem. So generally, it's kind of Tinder swindler. So And usually in post-Soviet Union region, if you have nice car rented for one day, and like you go to nice restaurant, you can nice jewelry, it looks like you're good professional. And nobody in those region ask about your case study. Well, for example, we have an American client, so they do compliance half a year, like half a year really. They do all like the research. Oh yeah, thank you for joining us. So that's why I think it's will be more people who want to work on their region. I think it's more it's better when client understand what they buying, because then they buy like 10 years from your firm. And if somebody want to work with dictators, it's okay. It's a business strategy, but they usually also not pay taxes, so it's usually also it's also from Torah that one evil must like kill other evil. And we must like we try to work with more ethical people, but they pay really not a lot. That's why you in problem. You in no, no. I mean, they pay a lot for their country. No, look, like for Ukraine, like no fee for manager $5,000-10,000. It's huge money because usually income on Ukraine for Ukrainian $200. So to pay for somebody just for consultancy 5,000, it's huge money. But here it's general fee for young professional, right? So, but it's our business. We believe in working on those markets, and we have big clients, but we have also small clients. Dina can explain in Kazakhstan, we have not big clients who is really dedicated women's leaders who want to be elected to Maslihat, to local council. But we also have big clients from big business who need some media support here. So, and I think it's good to work with both, because in this work you need experience, and that's why you have like number of clients, and all income is from God, so you can't really predict. So if you do good deeds and give 10% to charity, it must work. But also try to work more on our marketing.
Kamala Harris, and thank you so much, Kate, for this insightful presentation. If you were her political consultant, is there anything you would do differently? What advice would you give her based on your checkpoints? And what do you think? What was the major mistake during her campaign based on your experience?
Shortly. No, generally, I have a video about that on YouTube. But shortly, look, I think that in both party, Republican and Democratic parties, now it's 4 parties because they have like fractions inside the parties. And this crisis of leadership in both parties, which correlate with also anger of people to old elites. People don't like in every country when somebody or some family in power for 50 years. I mean, no, Trump looks like new, but Biden not new in this game. Nancy Pelosi not new in this game. So people think that generally Hakeem Jeffrey can be better candidate for the president than in future. I mean, not in that point, which was anti-crisis communication, but in future. And second, the same mistake as Hillary Clinton, different messages, and it's not moved from Kamala curiosity to Kamala understanding. And it's also problem that she have pretty big numbers in recognition, but not so big numbers in trust. And it's just situation on elections. You sometimes just in this situation that you can't change. And third, some people have charisma and some people haven't such charisma. And for like France and Germany, sometimes it's okay. For United States, it's not okay because it's like country which like a show, right? And I think it wasn't enough working on this archetype and charisma. So for vice president, her archetype is great. Women's leadership, vice woman, so it's called Aetna archetype. Great for vice president, but not enough for general campaign. And also people, you see, we work on this campaign, so we see research on this campaign, of course. People want to see a solution in economy. Trump make it very, I'm businessman, I'm good in economy. No, it's discussable, but one more time, it's message boxing. So make America great again. I will make economy better. This is my tools. And also we hate these people in DC and in New York because we don't understand that. and it's work. I mean, it's one message, the same message. It's easy, it's work, it's tested. So one more time, don't agitate for one or other side. But I think with Harris, it just situation which really, even with, I know my friend, it's Mr. Millman. He one of the main consultants to Biden, and he's very smart. But some situation just you can't do it in different way. No, he used to be consultants on Democratic Party, and on a last forum we had interesting conversation about all this stuff, and you can watch on YouTube this conversation.
What was your thought on there was criticism of her not going on these podcasts, like with Joe Rogan and others. Do you think that would have made a major difference? Because she would have been targeting a different different audience.
I think that not. Look, sometimes in campaign, one issue it's important because it just like one more time campaign. It's not fully orchestrated. Yeah. That's why I mentioned about strategy A, strategy B, understanding. So I not think that it's about this podcast. I think it's about like more deep, generally like structure of candidates. It's like roles in team. Somebody is good speaker, and usually this good speaker not really good in economy or analytics, right? And some people it's good managers, and Harris is good manager. But when you also need to be somebody like Miho Saakashvili, who is great example of charismatic leadership, some just have this talent and some just not, But I hope that with this book, we will raise a new generation of politicians in both parties, and we will fight together with disinformation, and we will do ethical campaigns. And hope our world will invest more money to education and to more creative stunts and war. So thank you so much for your attention. Second part will be conversation with Ms. Dina Shaikh-Islam. I think we can take one drink. Unfortunately, I must go because I have like Shabbat dinner with some friends.
Shalom.
Thank you so much, and we negotiated even before this like invitation. I wish you peace, and to all of you a lot of success and good deeds. So Dina will explain how we work in Kazakhstan, and we have questions here about Uzbekistan, so maybe you know a lot about. So let's take one drink and then move to Dina. Thank you so much.